good day. Welcome back, boys and girls. So, boys and girls, we have heard how our Supreme Buddha, traveled in this journey of life and death, trying to fulfill the perfections that required in order to become the Buddha. It's not something easy that you and I can achieve. Only extraordinary human beings can fulfill those perfections. The only way we can try to understand how difficult it was for our Bodhisattva to fulfill those perfections is by learning the previous stories, the Jataka tales of the Supreme Buddha. So, boys and girls, in the language of Pali, it's called Nekkhamma. In English, it means renunciation. Renunciation means that leaving the lay life, the life that you and I live in a house with so many sensual pleasures. And renunciation means that you leave this life in order to achieve liberation, to attain, to get rid of all these defilements. So one day, boys and girls, the bhikkhus, they all gathered in the Dhamma hall at the Jeta's monastery in the city of Savatthi, and they were talking about how great, how marvelous that Supreme Buddha was able to, leave all of his 3 palaces that was offered him by his father, and the most beautiful woman on earth, the Princess Yashodhara, and the most beautiful baby, Prince Rahula. He was newly born when the Bodhisattva, or the Prince Siddhartha, left the palace. These are not things that an ordinary person can leave behind. Only an extraordinary human being can do all of these things. So while the bhikkhus were discussing about how marvelous and what a great quality that Supreme Buddha had, what a great determination that the Prince Siddhartha had when he was leaving the palace, right? So and then the Buddha arrived in the Dhamma hall. And all the bhikkhus stood up and paid their veneration to the Supreme Buddha. And then the Supreme Buddha asked the bhikkhus, what were you talking about? What were you discussing about before I had arrived? And then the bhikkhu says, Ante, the Blessed One, we weren't talking about useless things. We were actually discussing how marvelous, how great that the Supreme Buddha was able to, leave all the sensual pleasures and, renounce the lay life in order to, attain the liberation. And then, boys and girls, the Supreme Buddha said, because not only in this life, even in many more previous lives, I had done the same thing. I had, left all the sensual pleasures, all the luxurious things I had, looking for liberation, in order to look for liberation. And boys and girls, so all the bhikkhus gathered there, they all know how, what a great determination Supreme Buddha Prince Siddhartha had in his lay life to let go all of the luxurious things. But they don't know the past lives. Not everyone can see the past lives of others, right? So and then they pleaded to the Supreme Buddha, oh Bhante, the Blessed One, please do tell us the previous stories, how the Bodhisattva was able to renounce and, in order to look for liberation. So boys and girls, out of compassion, Supreme Buddha revealed a previous story of his own, how he renounced the lay life, looking for liberation. So a long time ago, in a city called Mithila, there lived a king named Makadeva. What is the name of the king? Makadeva. So boys and girls, at the time, their lifespan was so long, like it's very lengthy, something we can't even imagine. So this King Makadeva, so he lived 84,000 years as a prince, like a young prince, and then he was crowned, he was appointed as the crown prince, and then again as a crown prince he again lived another 84,000 years, and then after completing that 84,000 years, he became a great king. And even as a great king, this King Makadeva lived for 84,000 years. Can you imagine how lengthy it might have been? Right? I cannot imagine. So one day this the great King Makadeva, he called his the hairdresser and told him, dear friend, so when you are combing my hair, when you're fixing my hair, please let me know if you see any gray hair among all the black hair strands. So and then this hairdresser, so after that day he was very mindful. He was combing, he was fixing the great king's hair very, very carefully and looking for any gray hair. So one day, after like time went by, one day, boys and girls, this hairdresser saw one gray hair strand among all of those dark, pitch dark hairs. So and then he said to the king, "Oh dear king, there's one gray hair on your head." And the great king Makadeva said, "Oh, okay, please pick it up, please pull it out and keep it on my hand." So this hairdresser did so. So he plucked it out and then he kept on the king's hand. And this great king, boys and girls, he, like, soon as he saw this gray hair, it was just one hair, right? And then still he thought, "Oh, I have a gray hair, which means I'm getting closer to the suffering, the aging, the sickness and death," right? And then that made him, think, okay, so, I have lived so long and now I have to face these things. There's no point of me living in the lay life. I should go forth and, become an ascetic or ordain. And then thinking this way, he, now he has set his mind, on going forth, leaving the lay life, leaving the kingship, all the sensual pleasures, and, becoming an ascetic or a monk. And then he, what he did, the first thing he did was he offered a village which has about like 100,000 gold coins as an income to the hairdresser who actually helped him to realize that he's getting closer to the suffering, the aging, the sickness and death. And then he addressed his eldest son and said to him, "My dear son, I have found a gray hair on my head, which means that I'm getting closer to the suffering, the aging, the sickness and death. So I need to immediately leave this lay life and, go to meditate in the forest." And thinking this way, so he handed over the kingdom to his son, his eldest son. And then, boys and girls, his ministers heard this story that, this king, like, he had another 84,000 years ahead of him for him to live, right? But like, why is he, handing over the kingdom to his eldest son and, saying that he's going to go forth and become an ascetic? So they came to see the king and asked, "Dear king, you have so much more lifespan to live as the king. So why did you make a decision to, become an ascetic?" And then the king answered. This king was very wise, isn't it, boys and girls? So he said to the ministers that, "No, ministers, I have found a gray hair on my head, which means that's a sign that tells me that I need to leave all of the sensual pleasures and find liberation. So that's why I'm leaving the palace and, finding my path to the bliss." And after the boys and girls, says King Makadeva, he ordained, he became an ascetic, and then he dwelled in a forest. And so while dwelling in the forest, this King Makadeva meditated, developed concentration. So this king was able to develop metta, which means loving kindness, karuna, which means compassion, mudita, which means altruistic joy, and upeka means equanimity. So he was able to develop all of four of these aspects, and then developed jhanas, and then he dwelt for another 84,000 years as an ascetic. And then after the breakup of his body, which means after he passed away, after he died, he was born in a Brahma world, and there he lived his full lifespan. And then again he was born into the human world in the same city named Mithila, and then he was reigned the city of Mithila by the name Nimi, the king Nimi. And again he, after some time, he again renounced his lay life and in order to find liberation. So boys and girls, like this, our Bodhisattva was, born into the human world, then again collect so much merit and lived a righteous life. And, after realizing that, there's no point of this life, the sensual pleasures, and then again so many times, boys and girls, our Bodhisattva renounced, which means left all the sensual pleasures in order to find liberation, the true happiness. So boys and girls, like after telling this story, the Supreme Buddha said to the bhikkhus, the monks that was gathered in the Dhamma hall, so bhikkhus, so like this, I have been, renounced the lay life so many times, but unfortunately had to come back, had to go through the samsara, the journey of life and death, so many times. But in this life, I was able to completely eradicate the continuance of this life, which means that I am no longer subject to birth and death. I'm no longer going to travel in the journey of life and death. So boys and girls, so after hearing this, the past story, how determined Supreme Buddha was, and how Supreme Buddha was able to, leave all of those sensual pleasures just to find the true liberation, just to find the true happiness. The bhikkhus were so amazed, because not only in this life, they only knew about this life, but they didn't know about the past life of the Supreme Buddha. And they all had such a pleasant mind towards the Supreme Buddha and Supreme Buddha's determination, the qualities he possessed. And the bhikkhus, boys and girls, who heard the past stories of King Makadeva, the Bodhisattva story, depending on their the wisdom they had, the bhikkhus had, they all were able to attain different fruits of Nibbana, which means some of them were able to become stream entrants, some of them were able to become once returners, some of them were able to become non-returners, and there were some monks among the bhikkhus, they became arahants, which means they eradicate all of the suffering. And finally, boys and girls, Supreme Buddha revealed the different people at the time. So obviously, the King Makadeva was our Bodhisattva, our Supreme Buddha, and then the hairdresser said that was our Venerable Anandabhadde, and the eldest son of the King Makadeva, who he handed over the kingdom, that was none other than the Prince Rahula, who was a Bhante at the time. So boys and girls, can you guess the name of the story, the Jataka story which you learned today? So the name of the Jataka story is Makadeva Jataka. So boys and girls, and at the end of the story, I thought of reminding you of something very important. You might have heard, or you might hear in the future, that there are people who accuse our Supreme Buddha, saying things like he abandoned his family, his beautiful wife, his parents, and his newly born beautiful son, Prince Rahula. But boys and girls, Prince Siddhartha left all the sensual pleasures for a greater cause. It was a selfless cause. But you have heard people that leaving their own family, their wives and kids, or their husbands and kids, go look for another family, get attached to another family. They abandon their own family to go after another man or a woman. But those things are selfish things, and no, everyone's suffering because of those things. But our Supreme Buddha, boys and girls, he left the lay life. So the whole world, out of compassion to the whole world, because of the Supreme Buddha, now we know that what our precepts are, what is an unwholesome deed, what is a wholesome deed, what happens when we do wholesome actions and unwholesome actions. Not only that, boys and girls, Supreme Buddha, after liberating, after finding the true happiness and eradicated all the suffering, he was able to help his own wife, his own son, and his parents. So can you imagine how great cause it would have been? How great our Supreme Buddha is? Can we do that? Can an ordinary person can do that? I don't think so. So boys and girls, when you hear these things, remember what great efforts our Supreme Buddha has made in order to bring happiness into all of our lives, and how compassionate our Supreme Buddha was towards all of us. May you all develop a pleasant mind towards our great teacher, the Supreme Buddha, and gain so much merit into your lives. May you all be well and happy. Namo Buddhaya.